Hi, I'm Jane Peterson with the Human Systems Institute, and I'm going to take up the topic of listening well today. The experience of being listened to all the way on something until your meaning is completely clear to another human being is extremely rare in life. That's a quote from Monica Guzman, the author of I Never Thought of It That Way. How is it some people just put us at ease? We open up to them and feel comfortable and safe. What is the gift behind that art? What are the ingredients of listening so people feel heard? In such a divisive time, listening well so that another person feels heard, feels your care, and feels connected to you is a more important skill than ever. So here are some questions for you to consider. Are you that kind of listener? Find out. First question, what is your purpose in listening? Most of us have an agenda, whether we know it or not. Even just chatting to pass the time is an agenda. If your intention is to understand the other person, then that is a purpose. And are your actions aligned with that purpose? Or might you have another purpose sneaking around in the background? For example, to appear intelligent, or to be right, or to be liked, or to provoke attention. Part of good listening is to know our tendencies towards less aligned agendas and be able to set those aside. Second question, can you set aside your model of how things should work and what is right and valuable and really hear the other person's perspective? This is actually a hard task. Every human being has to create models of how things work in order to navigate the moment-to-moment demands of modern life. Life just comes at us too fast to consciously think through every response we must make. Thus, we're usually blind to our own model of how things work because we're looking at the world through that model rather than being able to look at our model. We only discover our model when we're confronted with someone else whose model of reality is different than ours. So, can you put yours aside for a moment and remain curious about how the world works in that other person's experience? Third question, are you present? Are you really there with open ears and a willing heart, rather than thinking of what you might do in their place or what you think is right? Are you truly curious as to how their world works? The average person speaks about 120 to 150 words a minute, and our brains can think faster than that. So the temptation is to fill those spaces with our own thoughts rather than holding space open with interest and curiosity about what the other person's life is like. Okay, fourth question. Are you in sync with them? This is often called rapport and is often it's both a body-based phenomena and a prosody-based phenomena, like the melody and the sound of your voice. There are lots of videos on the internet showing people crossing their legs together, assuming the same posture, even adopting each other's speech patterns as they attune to one another. Every human being has their own natural rhythm. For instance, the way you breathe, how fast your heart beats, your size, the culture you grew up in, all of these shape your natural rhythm and tempo. And all of these factors come together to create what feels like a right rhythm to you. Listening well means you're able to attune to the other person's rhythm, adapting yourself a bit to come into sync with them. As a personal example, it took me a long time to realize that my rhythm and tempo of speaking and pausing was significantly different and quicker than my husband's. So I would start talking again before he had time to formulate his response. It turns out that our basic body and mind tempos don't usually change. However, awareness of that difference can enable us to work together to accommodate our different tempos and our different rhythms. Fifth question. Do you ask open-ended questions or close-ended questions? And how does it feel to be asked a yes/no closed-ended question right now? Open-ended questions are questions that often start with a how or a what, as in, how did that make you feel? What was it like to receive that? Open-ended questions let the other person have the floor and direct the conversation. You let them steer the bus rather than take control. Closed-ended questions, however, shut down the conversation and give control back to the question asker. Okay, sixth question. Do you close the loop and ensure that you understand what is being said? Using open-ended questions, reflective questions like, so if I understand you correctly, you're saying, is this what you mean? Have I got this right? These kinds of closing the loop questions invite connection and invite correction. These questions empower your speaker to correct any misperceptions you may have. They also let your speaker hear themselves think. Human beings are complicated creatures. A lot of our thinking processes are actually hidden from view so that we can get on with the business of living life. Hearing our thoughts reflected back to us in a genuinely caring and interested way is a powerful way for us to learn more about ourselves. Here's another quote. I've come to think of questioning as a moral practice. When you are asking a good question, you are adopting a position of humility. That's from David Brooks, who wrote a great book called How to Know a Person. Okay, I think this is our seventh question. Do you genuinely care about the other person? Are you able to regard them with respect as a human being, even if you disagree with their views? Are you able to see and hear the human in the story? The person who has walked down a different road in life than yours. Even siblings often experience the same family quite differently. The quality of your questions and the care with which you ask them will make that other person either feel genuinely seen or maybe not so much. Okay, final question. Are you able to foreground their story and keep yours in the background? Too often, when we're listening to someone, we're reminded of our own experiences in the other stories, and we have a tendency to bring that forward. In a sense, taking the spotlight off them and turning it onto ourselves. Are you able to notice your own memories while returning the spotlight to them, to remain curious about their experience and their story? Here's another quote for you. And this again is from David Brooks. Each person is a mystery. And when surrounded by mysteries, it's best to live life in the form of a question. As many of you know, the first step in constellation work is always a conversation, some kind of conversation. These conversations can be brief or lengthy or anywhere in between. And these conversations are critical, not just for the content of the client's issue. These conversations are the place where we connect with our clients. We invite them into a safe space with us so that we can explore their situation together. To craft these conversations well and quickly, since in a workshop setting, you may only have 10 or 15 minutes to chat, it takes skill. These skills and more are the basis of the masterclass that I'm offering here this month in March, starting March 21st. And we'll be in Aurora here on the small farm that I live on. And the title of the course is The Art of Skillful Inquiry, Chair Work. I have been so impressed over the years with Bert Hellinger's absolute precision at using language in questions. And I don't feel that that's been given its due in our field. It's such a rich topic. I also have been blessed to have other teachers, leaders in the field of human communication like Barnett Pierce, who have informed my understanding of how to communicate effectively in the chair. And I'm excited to pass this information on to you, to share this with you. I always remind my students, good floor work or good chair work makes good floor work. So, how well you accomplish this first step sets the stage for what follows. So, I hope you'll consider joining us here on the farm. March 21st through 24th, it's over 4 days. Plus, there's a 1 day experimental workshop on March the 25th, where we look at language. We use constellations and words and phrases. So if there was a phrase that you heard growing up, or there's words that have stuck with you, or even a dream phrase that sticks with you, and you want to explore what that means in a more embodied way, come and join us for this workshop. I hope you'll join me, and thank you for listening.